Welcome to the International Conference on Collective Intelligence, ICCI. I'm Jamin Shively. What is collective intelligence? Collective intelligence is a higher form of intelligence, a much higher form of intelligence even than the smartest people who've ever walked the earth. By potentially many orders of magnitude. In other words, it could be 1,000,000 times smarter than the smartest person in terms of what it's able to figure out and accomplish in terms of solving hard problems. I mean, really, that's kind of, the measure of intelligence is the ability to solve hard problems. So collective intelligence is this. So how does this higher form of intelligence emerge? It's very simple. People coming together, groups, communities coming together to intentionally co-create, create together solutions that they could not have done, any one of them, on their own. So just think, for example, the Apollo programs to, put people on the moon and bring them home safely. There's just no way that a single human being could ever have pulled that off in 1,000,000, well, I don't know, in 1,000 years. But through the cooperative effort of a bunch of people working together with a common goal, that turns out to be very, very important, a collective intelligence emerges, which is just phenomenally more intelligent than the individual. Okay, so I mentioned the Apollo program. There are lots of other examples from history. The Skunk Works projects of Lockheed Martin in Southern California decades back, when it was absolutely critical that certain innovations happen at just impossible speed. And so they put together this program that really turned out to be an amazing implementation of collective intelligence. And in more recent history, thanks to the internet and communication technologies, we now have examples of collective intelligence like Wikipedia, where you have, I don't know how many millions of people collaborating around the world on this, global encyclopedia that's goes way deeper than any one company, any one publisher could possibly go. And then Linux, the operating system, which is the basis of the Mac computer that I'm using right here right now, recording this, uses a Linux operating system. And Linux itself was created by collective intelligence, open source software community, a bunch of people coming together, collaborating, creating Linux. There are lots of examples, and we've got a list of them somewhere that I'll link to. In fact, just one more example that I'll cite, or a couple more. There's the MIT Climate Collab project, which is an implementation of collective intelligence to take on climate change. There's Project Azimuth, the Azimuth Forum, which is focused on saving the planet, all the planet's problems as a whole. One other really interesting example of collective intelligence is Google, because you have the collective intelligence of thousands of programmers creating this massive code base, which is Google, combined with the collective intelligence of everyone who's ever contributed any content to the internet. And it's really the mashup or combination of these two collective intelligences which produces the results when you do a Google query. So just an amazing example of collective intelligence. Now, ICCI, while it dedicates a certain amount of focus to extracting the learnings from these various examples and figuring out how to apply them in larger contexts, its main focus, and what I'm so excited about, is not so much what collective intelligence has accomplished in the past, but where collective intelligence is going. And collective intelligence is taking us to a whole new world, a world where you have this exponentially growing collective intelligence, because that's the potential that it has, and we'll see as we explore it within ICCI exactly why that is, that it has this potential for hyper growth, for exponential growth, to become orders of magnitude more intelligent, in that it is able to take on bigger and bigger challenges and solve bigger and bigger problems which to us as mere individuals with our relatively narrow perspectives compared with collective intelligence, we look at these problems from our relatively low level of intelligence compared to collective intelligence. We look at these big problems and say, oh my goodness, they're just totally intractable, unsolvable, they're impossible, right? Like, how are you going to reverse climate change? How are you going to, end poverty? How are you going to make war obsolete, right? And yet a vastly higher form of intelligence might look at these same problems and say, those are trivial, those are easy to solve. And, the collective intelligence figures out that may take a whole bunch of solutions to ultimately solve that problem. And many problems may end up being solved holistically. In fact, that's a big part of our thesis that we're proposing, is that we cannot truly solve any one of our mega problems without solving all of our problems holistically. So, so the big question becomes exactly how do you go about solving all your problems holistically? And there are different kind of facets or aspects of collective intelligence. Part of it is very human-based. Other parts of it are very strongly computer-based or artificial intelligence-based. And one of the keys to holistically solving all the world's problems is being able to model the entire world and all of its problems and all of its resources and all of its people and economies, ecosystems, et cetera, to model it all in as much detail as our technology permits. But of course, our computer technologies are on their own exponential growth curve. So these capabilities are constantly going to be improving regardless. And so with the ability to model the entire world, we will have the ability to then model as well any given solution that's proposed to be implemented. And we'll be able to look at that solution in a holistic context. So what do we mean by that? So any given solution, of course, has its intended consequence. This is what it's attempting to achieve. So it has these intended consequences, but it also will have unintended consequences. And some of those can be positive and others may be negative. But regardless, all of these consequences, intended, unintended, positive, negative, neutral, what have you, all of these consequences derived from any given solution need to be understood, documented, quantified, made measurable, measured on an ongoing basis, and those measurements need to be stored in a database so that we can track them. And all of this information then makes it feasible for us to model holistically all of these different solutions and to be able to come up with a complete set of solutions, a group of solutions, which working together, which we can model holistically, working together will ultimately bring about the solution of all the problems that can physically be solved. And even those that cannot be completely solved can be mitigated or reduced as much as possible. And so the, kind of the holy grail of this whole collective intelligence effort is precisely to solve, to the extent possible, all of the world's problems. For a more detailed exploration as to exactly how we do that, I'll begin that exploration here, and then we'll have some other links that will point to where to go for more in-depth information still. But the basic idea is that we have these structures which are called taxonomies. Like, think of like a root structure and an inverted tree that just keeps branching and branching and branching out until ultimately it gets to a set of leaves, what are called leaf nodes or leaf topics. So imagine such taxonomies of all the world's problems, another taxonomy of all the world's resources, all the world's assets, another taxonomy of all the solutions that have been implemented and linked to all the data that's been collected on those solutions, like I was talking about earlier. A whole taxonomy of proposed solutions. So these taxonomies give the world and the collective intelligence a place for people to come and participate in conversations and develop certain ideas, develop certain solutions, and these or develop components of solutions, and work with larger groups of people who can then collaborate to create complete solutions. Other groups will be working on the modeling effort, the ability to model all of these solutions simultaneously, model the entire planet, all the world, all of its people, economies, etc. So the kind of the big idea of collective intelligence is that this global community constituting the collective intelligence, along with artificial intelligence, etc. This global community, leveraging all the different tools and platforms, and artificial intelligence included, will self-organize into specific groups and teams focused on specific nodes of specific taxonomies, and holistically, all of this global community will go to work on coming up with, and refining and perfecting and implementing all of the solutions that will be needed to achieve, to the extent possible, the ultimate goal. And the ultimate goal is a whole world, a world that is whole. That's right. I did want to also mention give it one example of a solution. So I've been talking about all these solutions that will work together to holistically solve all the world's problems. Let me give an example of one, and how it is what we call a holistic solution. It looks holistically at the whole world and seeks to maximize the beneficial impact across as much of the world as possible. That solution is a program called the Community Cafe program. And the community cafes are these essentially big sort of cafeteria style, can be indoor, can be outdoor, can be open air, depending on what part of the world they're in and the culture of that part of the world and architecture, etc. But it's a big cafeteria style feeding place where people can get healthy, nutritious food 3 times a day, where they don't have to pay anything for it. And entire communities that are starving, where there's just mass famine, can be fed sustainably this way. Now, why do I say sustainably? How is that? Well, the community cafes operate in a way that, like I said, it is a holistic solution. It looks at the whole. So in terms of sourcing the food products that will be prepared in the community cafe has the policy that it seeks to source as much of its inputs as possible from what we call regenerative agricultural networks. That means basically farming agriculture that has a net regenerative or healing, nurturing, growing impact on ecology, on ecosystems, and on the world's life-supporting systems. And we have some great information if you follow the link, Regenerative Agricultural Networks. I highly recommend it. It's fascinating because among the examples that we talk about are agriculture and holistic land, what's called holistic land management, pioneered by Alan Savory and the Savory Institute, can actually reverse the very extremely damaging process of desertification. Desertification is the process by which healthy ecosystems go to desert, and it's happening all around the world, and it's actually a major contributor to climate change. Well, it turns out that through holistic land management, we can actually reverse desertification, and in the process sequester so much carbon that we're actually that it can be a major contributor to reversing climate change. So by supporting and by sourcing only from, or to the extent possible, from regenerative agricultural networks, the community cafes will be contributing to the healing of ecosystems and ultimately the entire planet. So the example is of a solution is community cafes, but we're now looking at the holistic aspects. Its goal is the permanent eradication of hunger, but in the process, it will help heal the planet. So with that, I hope I've given you a good introduction to ICCI. Please take a look at the other links that we provide below, and please contact us if you have any questions or comments whatsoever. You can just post them right here to this very YouTube video in the comment section below. And thank you in advance for those. And thank you so much for watching. Thank you.